if you didn't grow up with AI, you might think that the worst thing that could happen is a kid using ChatGPT for their essay. But what you don't see is that your friends are turning to ChatGPT to tell them their deepest secrets and gain empathy from them, and they're not talking to you anymore.
Hello, and welcome back to For Humanity, an AI Risk podcast. This is episode number 70, Young People versus Advancing AI. I'm John Sherman, your host. I'm also the president of the AI Risk Network. This week, we are focusing on young people, our students, high school and college, and the role they can play in shaping a better future for themselves. I have two 20-year-old twins. And I started this YouTube channel for the very specific purpose of shaping a better future for them. At best, my generation is passing on a giant question mark surrounded in black clouds to the next generation. The good case future brings a job market to them ravaged by artificial intelligence. Their 12 years of schooling potentially wasted on a future where machines can do every job better than any human. In that future, the very nature of human fulfillment and purpose is an open question. To be very clear, I am ashamed to be leaving this future to my kids and their generation, and I'm working all day, every day, to make a better future for every young person. So let me introduce our guests for today's show. They are from the Young People's Alliance, a really impressive group working on 55 campuses as well as in D.C., to advocate for policies that benefit young people. Our guests today are Sam Heiner, the founder and executive director, Ava Smithing, policy director, and Emma Corbett, who is a senior at East Carolina University and a YPA chapter leader. We talk about all the AI risks, but as we always do here on For Humanity and the AI Risk Network, we focus on the most serious risk, human extinction. Okay, so today we are welcoming Emma, Ava, and Sam from the Young People's Alliance. Welcome to For Humanity. So glad to have you all. Sam, met with you a couple days ago, whatever it was, and we sort of talked about your organization. And I'm really interested to know sort of what young people's attitudes and feelings are about AI risk, all the risks, most particularly extinction risk. But, Sam and Ava are in D.C. working for Young People's Alliance in D.C., and Ella is a student out in Greenville, North Carolina, at East Carolina University. So Sam, let's just start off with you real quick and just tell us about Young People's Alliance. When we first talked, you were telling me that you're striving to be the AARP of young people. Tell me about the org.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm the executive director of the Young People's Alliance and co-founded it about 5 years ago when I was in high school. Now I'm working at it full time. And through that work, our goal is to empower young people, especially on the most pressing issues affecting us today. Specifically, we focus on opportunity, affordability, and community. And already we're seeing AI have massive impacts there. And of course, as AI becomes more and more powerful, it's going to continue to take over our politics in a way that is going to primarily affect young people. So that's a deeply important issue to us, but broadly are looking to be representative of our generation and pass innovative bipartisan policy to help make sure that our generation has access to the things that we need.
Sure. And Ava, you are working in DC alongside Sam. How much do you all hear about AI? How much of your sort of portfolio is AI taking up these days? I know we're all just drowning in it.
I would say just about my entire portfolio is taken up by AI nowadays. When I first moved to DC 2 years ago after I graduated, we were doing algorithmic manipulation and trying to combat algorithmic manipulation, which now that in 2 years later, that was just work on AI as well. So now we're moving into more territory, looking at how we can mitigate the risks associated with human-like AI that's interacting with children, that's interacting with people, and has been more persuasive than humans are, and is better at convincing people of things. So I would say, due to the gravity of the problem, it really has taken over my entire portfolio at the moment.
Wow. On one hand, that is good to hear. On another hand, that's bad to hear. Yeah, all the things. And so Emma, you are a student. What year are you?
I'm a senior. I graduate this semester from East Carolina University, and I've been with Young People's Alliance for about 2 years now. And I started as the field director out here at East Carolina University. And then I've grown into like a coaching role. So I'm working with a lot of campuses across the state of North Carolina. So it's been really neat to see the organization expand and to see that we are actually engaging and making a real impact in these people's lives.
Love it. Love it. And Sam, you're on 50 plus campuses, something like that. And you've got, just describe real quickly sort of how the org works. There are people on the ground that are staffers, and then they have volunteers, or how does the whole sort of thing work when you're on a campus?
Yeah, exactly. So we're at 55 campuses. Those are colleges, or universities, high schools, and community colleges. And on those campuses, young people will be talking with each other about the most pressing issues affecting young people right now and what's really important to them, what issues aren't being addressed politically. And then all that information comes together to formulate the most pressing yet overlooked issues that young people are facing that we prioritize as an organization. And then we do across those campuses different activations to educate people on those issues and then to start creating policy and ultimately pass that policy. So a great event that we did last semester that Emma was a part of was a lobby day at the NC General Assembly, where we had students come to the state legislature and directly lobby for legislation and have a really great impact that way. So that's just one example. We also do things like protests and other events on campuses as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And so, Emma, I have 2 kids. They are sophomores in college. My daughter is in Boulder and my son's in Austin. So I sort of have a sense of their attitudes, but I'm curious to you, and especially you're a senior, you're getting ready to go jump in this job force thing. What are you feeling? What are the students actually talking about on the ground about this crazy AI stuff?
Yeah, like we've done a lot of work trying to engage students and to kind of gauge their opinion on AI. And I feel like the general consensus is that students kind of think of AI as simply a tool to get their homework done faster or, kind of make their everyday tasks more efficient. And it's just becoming evident to me that most people don't actually fully understand the implications of AI for our generation and how far-reaching those implications will be. Like, for example, we have AI impacting our housing with artificial price gouging. We have AI taking job opportunities when we're automating all of these entry-level jobs. And then, of course, AI poses the risk of this massive loss of community because we're seeing people turn to AI companions instead of forming these real-world relationships. So a large focus of mine is trying to share that information with the students I engage with and help them understand that it's more than just a tool to get your homework done quicker. Like, this is going to impact us.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. So in your fourth year, in your first year, there was no AI. Right?
No.
It was not. So you've literally seen it come in. It's a little bit about all right, I'm going to date myself ever so briefly. I went to college from 1993 to 1997. And there was no email when I started college. And sophomore year, they were like, yeah, you guys need to get your course instructions from your email. We're not going to pass it out as a paper at the front of the room anymore. And I was like, wait a minute. You mean I need to go to this computer lab and scan in with my card and go to the thing, open a thing, print the thing, and you can't just put it in my hand at the front of the room like you used to? I was like, this is never going to work. So it's interesting to see technology come in during your time. Tell me about the progression of it. The first, it's like the tsunami coming on the beach. First the water goes out, then the water comes in. What was the sort of vibe? And just walk me through the entry of that into your collegiate life.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when I came in as a freshman, there was no AI. I think it kind of only picked up late my sophomore year, maybe start of junior year. And at first, I just heard about it through friends and my network of people that, oh, I'm using this for my homework, or this gave me a good study guide. And then you see the educational realm tried to come up with policies and try to address it, but it was quite evident that none of us had a great understanding of what AI is and what it will do within the education space. So I've seen a lot of professors try to navigate that. And I think we're still trying to find the balance. I have some professors who say, you can use AI, but you need to disclose it, how you've used it. I have other professors who say any use of AI will, be an automatic failure. So the attitudes about it are still kind of not concrete yet. And I think we're still trying to figure that out. But at this point in my college career, almost everyone I know uses it in some capacity. And I've done some panels with professors as well, which is really interesting to hear their takes. Like, some people are completely against it, but there are educational benefits to using it as a study tool. And I think that's important to consider as well, as long as we actually understand the other implications it will have on our generation.
Yeah. And how about just you as a writer in college? I don't know what your major is, but has your personal experience with writing must have really transformed I know mine has professionally a little bit.
Yeah. My major is political science and I'm pre-law. I'm applying to law school right now. So it is definitely a huge thing to consider when it comes to writing. Obviously, law school is a lot of writing. I personally have shied away from using it to help my writing, really. Occasionally I'll use it as an outline, or if I'm struggling to connect a point, I might ask how can I bridge this gap, and ask for suggestions. Or when I'm doing research, I'll run my paper through and ask them to find repetitive words or things like that I can kind of tweak. But I know some people that just use it as their entire assignment, or, really have them flesh out an outline and they'll add in a couple filler words and submit that. And to me, that's just too scary for me to do. I don't want to compromise my own writing style and ability to produce that work by myself. So yeah, I try to shy away from using it as much as I can within academics.
Okay, how about this? On your campus, scale of 1 to 10, you can do single point decimals. 10 is we fully love it. It's the greatest thing in the world. 0 is we absolutely hate it, destroy it. What is the general vibe about AI writ large?
I would say we're sitting around a 7, maybe a 7.5. I think a lot of people, like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people see it as I get my homework done faster. It gives me better writing ideas. And some of those mundane assignments, we'll have discussion posts and things like that, where it's really just a participation and people use it for that. But like I said, I think that gap really comes from people not understanding the implications that it's going to actually have on us. People don't see it as more than a tool. And I don't think they quite understand how this is impacting their everyday lives. And I think if they did, that rating would be a little lower. But there certainly are people on campus who are concerned in many aspects about it. So I think that's where that sentiment comes from.
Yeah, I'll follow up on Emma's point there. Having just graduated in the spring as well, I do think there's almost two different scales there where, yes, AI can be extremely helpful. And I think pretty much everybody acknowledges that, but it feels poisonous at the same time. It's like social media in that way, that there's a recognition. This isn't good for me. It doesn't feel good to ChatGPT my essay and click submit and not be interacting with the content at all. I don't want to be doing this. But for a lot of students, maybe they're so busy between all their extracurriculars and their interviews for jobs and whatever, that they feel like that's their only option. Or at least that's the, narrative that they have for why they're using it. So I don't think it's what we want our ideal world to look like with AI. It's just kind of the convenience and the option available to us.
Sam, I would also prompt you to add a little bit of the information we found from the listening sessions we did on campuses, because I think that answers this question well, if you remember any of those stats from the top of your head.
Yeah. So we actually focused on emotional AI companions, which is a whole nother aspect of this work that we're very concerned about, which I think functions similarly for a very lonely person. That can be a salve, but it doesn't actually represent connecting with another person the same way. You're really providing value in someone else's life, the accomplishment of being able to do that, and ultimately makes people worse at being able to connect with one another because other people have boundaries and emotional needs, unlike chatbots. But either way, we asked high schoolers and college students, do you think that these apps should be banned for minors? And in our pool of mostly high schoolers, 80% of people we talked to said yes. And the other folks who did not say yes actually just wanted more information. To be honest with you, we didn't have anybody who was very strongly against that. And I think that demonstrates a lot of the fears around AI and the desire to preserve humanity and human connection.
Wow. I mean, they're all minors, right? They're in high school. So they're saying, take it from me. They're saying, remove it.
Exactly. They're saying I don't want my friends to be on this. I want to be able to talk to my friends. I don't want them to, be on this app all the time and replacing human connection with that.
Yeah. Ava, I'm curious, in your DC policy world a little bit, give me that same 10-point scale. What is the vibe? 10, we love it. 0, we hate it. Where are we at?
I think that my perspective on this is a little bit skewed because the people I tend to hang around here are those who I do work with, and they are actively pushing against this. I would put us at about a 0.75, I think. But
wow.
That being said, in the way that we use AI in our work, I would put it at about a 6. I do think that there are people in this space. We work for a nonprofit. There's not the same resources that big companies have. We don't have the time. We don't have the people and the capacity. So AI, as far as adoption into our workplaces, I would say is about a 6. But as far as our attitudes for how we're feeling about it, I would push it back to I would push that even below 1. But again, I am biased because I work in the AI safety and nonprofit space. So.
Right. I love that. And like, to be clear, so like, I'm in the same boat with the three of you. Mm-hmm. I use it all the time. And I'm gravely concerned about it. And so like, this is the world we are in. Sam, what is the in the DC world, in the DC policy world, how are you feeling about the chances of making any inroads, of being able to shape this AI future? Are we just going to get steamrolled here, or are we going to have an opportunity to form our future in any way?
Well, I'll say it's scary up front. I don't think we're quite ready to tackle these issues, all in all, in terms of the conversations happening in DC. And I think tech has a lot of money, and money is more influential than ever, and it's been very influential throughout our American political history. I think it's very hard to get something done right now because of that. But the one thing that does give me hope is that we have such a broad coalition that understands that it's a problem. With social media, it was already pretty broad. I think with AI companions, it's even broader. And it's a priority for more folks as well. You're seeing across party lines, like senators right now coming out and applauding action on this issue. You saw at the National Conservatism Convention a week or two ago, so many people speaking out about AI and transhumanism as being a major ideological issue for them. And you've got your traditional liberal advocacy groups as well. I was starting to get into this fight too. So I think this is something where folks understand that, like, as far as political issues go, this is going to be one of the greatest challenges of our time, is how we respond to AI, and whether we essentially create a permanent oligarchy using these superhuman tools to maintain power, or whether we vest power back in the hands of the people. And so everybody has a stake in this fight. I think it's going to continue heating up, especially as automation continues to take its toll. And I'm not going to say that I'm positive we'll succeed, but I think we have a very good shot at succeeding.
Love it. And Emma, it seems like we have these love-hate relationships with this stuff. Like, I am guilty of it too. We'll get off after an hour or so, we'll get off of here and I'll go to my phone and I'll pick it up, and there's like a full dopamine rush to like check my stuff and be like, oh, what's happening on this thing? What's happening on this thing? And yet I don't trust the CEOs who are, have brought this into our lives. I really don't trust where they're taking it next. What is your perspective on that sort of like love, hate, these apps, this tech stuff?
Yeah, I think our generation is in a unique position in that we are the first generation to grow up with an abundance of social media apps, and each of them have deployed manipulative algorithms that are literally designed to keep you addicted to using social media. And I think the emergence of AI has just made that worse. And, like Sam said, I think it makes me nervous in the sense of like losing community, and that we want people to still be able to form in-person relationships. And I've had a couple interesting conversations with my friends where, they're not using AI companions, but we have had discussions about, are you obligated to say thank you to using your Chat GPT after you finish an assignment,
right?
Or kind of adding these elements that you would expect from a human conversation. And I feel like even giving weight to the idea that we owe a chatbot anything that we would expect of this human conversation, or that we should be kind to them, is kind of indicative of the fact that young people, kind of fear the repercussions of engaging with AI a little bit. And I don't think we've really been taught how to responsibly consume AI either. And with that in mind, it's kind of easy to see how the lines between using AI in an academic or workspace, the lines are kind of blurred between that and the emotional support, like AI companion type of field.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, in talking about the success of organizing, I think when college students are provided with the information, like, this is a new issue for all of us. Like you said, at the beginning of my college experience, AI wasn't even around. So being able to provide people with information about AI and how it's actually impacting their real lives, I have found that almost everyone I've engaged with wants to help and wants to join the cause. So that gives me hope that with the right amount of communication and education on AI, we really can build this massive movement that will be successful in kind of addressing these major issues for our generation.
I love it. And so if AI risk was a meal, there's sort of like the appetizers, the entree, and the dessert, right? So the appetizers are like deep fakes, companions, job loss. The entree is extinction risk. And if we don't solve the entree, nobody gets to dessert, the utopia they say we're getting at the end, right? So let's stay in the appetizers for a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the main course here. But so I think the biggest appetizer is job loss. And that is a huge thing for new college graduates, for parents who are investing to put their kids in college, thinking that the investment's going to pay off and a job on the other side. I have great fears about if we have no entry-level workers, how do we get mid-level workers? How do you get senior-level workers if you don't learn as an entry-level worker? So I don't know. Emma, you first. What is the vibe among your graduating seniors with you? I guess you're just starting off the year, but it'll be here soon enough. I hate to say it to you. It'll be a long time. You'll never
No, I totally understand. I definitely share those same concerns, and I think a lot of people around me are also concerned. I think we've grown up with this idea of the American dream, and that going to college will kind of promise you success after graduation. And it is scary to think that that is kind of being jeopardized by AI and, automating all of these entry-level jobs, especially those degrees that have always promised success, like those technology and science-based degrees. And so young people I've spoken to are definitely scared about that. And I think another element to that kind of adds fuel to the fire is that a lot of these companies or admission processes at grad schools are reviewing resumes and applications with AI. And that, that just honestly feels like a slap in the face when you are working hard to, obtain the necessary credentials to enter a field. You're paying ever increasing costs to attend higher education or training programs. You're spending all this time applying. Like, I know people that have applied to hundreds of jobs and not heard back. And it's just frustrating to know that, you're putting in all of this work for so many years and a human doesn't even lay eyes on your application before it's discarded. So I think that adds another element of frustration with the whole lack of opportunity in the workspace.
I totally believe that. I'm going to share another little story with you guys. So I was a TV reporter for 12 years. And there's always this sort of like thing in TV, like, oh, the news director has like 300 tapes on their desk and they can like replace you at any minute. Like they have so much interest in working there. I knew a news director who would get the 300 tapes on his desk and would literally take half of them, just put them in two piles, take half of them and put them in the trash and say, I don't hire unlucky people. That literally happened. And so I don't know that the previous system was as perfect as we may have thought it was behind closed doors, but certainly having a model knock you out without a human ever laying eyes on you is a terrible thing to think about. Sam, from your seat, the job loss thing has got to be a huge thing. That obviously politicians are incredibly interested in job loss, preserving jobs, the employment picture. What is your sense of the job loss AI scene in DC?
Yeah, well, I think part of the problem is no one wants to fire people. And so while we have seen a lot of layoffs, I think where there's a lot of pain right now is in the jobs that aren't being created. I don't need to hire an intern anymore because ChatGPT can do work about as well as the average intern, let's be honest, in a lot of these situations. But why are internships and entry-level jobs so important? Because you're training somebody for how to take over your job one day and how to work their way up and gain these skills. We don't need to be training ChatGPT to do those things. It's got access to the entire internet's worth of information already. And so I think that's the scariest thing, and frankly is short-sighted the way that we collectively are approaching this problem right now, where we're automating these entry-level jobs. Who is going to replace us at the mid and high-level jobs in 20 to 40 years? We don't have an answer for that. So I think there's an immediate need for reinvestment in our workforce training, apprenticeships, and expanding those to different domains as well is very necessary. And in the long term, thinking about if we do have mass automation, where a lot of the things that are typically only in human capability just are no longer exclusively available to us. Do we need to expand our care economy, better compensate domestic labor, things like that, encourage families as a replacement for having all of these jobs as well. Things like that are very interesting, but we're still early in our thinking on that. I think the most immediate thing that we'll see in the next 3 to 5 years is social unrest, quite frankly. What happens when educated young people can't find jobs? Typically, you get social unrest, historically speaking, and I think we'll see the same thing, which frankly might create an opportunity for the movement to create safe AI regulations, but at the same time will also obviously create unrest, which can be very dangerous as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ava, what happens when we've got all these young people sitting around with degrees they're paying for or someone's paying for and no jobs?
Well, they conflict with those who are in power and are wanting to harness AI at its full throttle without putting any guardrails on there. Earlier, you asked me to rank from 0 to 1 how people in DC are feeling, and I gave you the ranking of the people who work on AI safety. That's about a 0. If you brought in the group of people that I would be ranking to the entirety of the city and everyone who's working here, I would put it on the much higher side, right? There is a lot at stake with the idea that, if we don't innovate this technology, someone else is going to innovate it. And we see a lot of people in decision-making positions have absolutely adopted that mindset. And I think what happens when you get these jobless young people is there will be a little bit of conflict, and young people are feeling so isolated and so anxious and already at such unease about the government and such unease about the institutions that are supposed to protect them. I think the language around going full throttle on AI is pushing young people further and further into that unease and into that discomfort with the way that current systems are governing them and the way that they're represented. And that's a big goal of what we're trying to do at the Young People's Alliance, is center young people's voices in these policy conversations, because ultimately we're going to be the ones who are inheriting the future, whatever it looks like. We have no way of predicting it, but a lot of the people who are making these rules won't be around when that future unearth itself. So what can we do right now to give those jobless young people the opportunity to advocate for themselves and to stand up for themselves and to pull political levers that would make change and allow the government to unveil some guardrails that are going to protect them and ultimately hopefully get them jobs?
When I was 15 years old, I decided I wanted to be a TV news reporter. There are 4 major national awards a TV news reporter can win: the Peabody, the DuPont Columbia, the National Emmy, and the National Edward R. Murrow Award. Before I was 33 years old, I had won all 4 as a local news reporter investigating Chesapeake Bay polluters.
Reporter John Sherman will accept the Peabody.
John Sherman.
But I left news in 2010 when the internet was really starting to radically change the news business. Now, algorithms dictate much of what we see and in turn, much of what we think. That's why I am so excited today to talk to you about Ground News, the founding sponsor of the AI Risk Network and For Humanity, an AI Risk podcast. I first heard about Ground News when I noticed them sponsoring many of my favorite podcasts, but true confession, I never used the service until they approached me about sponsoring this podcast. So I tried it, and truly, I have been blown away. It is a fundamentally different way to consume news. Okay, next true confession. Before Ground News, I used to use Twitter to get all of my news from. My thought process was like, well, I'm reading the major publications and I'm reading the major writers, so, how bad could it be? It was really bad, like way worse than I thought. If you see anything often enough, it becomes normal, but these algorithms kind of lull you to sleep, and you lose your perspective. And I realized that was exactly what was happening to me. Ground News pulled back the curtain for me. Even for me, with 12 years experience working at news, it revealed things not just about the news itself, but about the way it was being covered that I wasn't really able to see. Sensationalism and bias were sneaking past my radar, and I didn't even know it. Ground News lets me compare headlines and know going in the biases of the publication, so before I ever read a word of the article, I understand the frame around it much better. So as an example, let's take the historic defeat of big tech in the US Senate when the proposed 10-year state AI law moratorium was crushed by a vote of 99-1 at 4 a.m. Ground News gives me 270 articles in one place, but then it gives me a distilled bias comparison. For me, I spend a ton of my time trying to think about how to effectively communicate with the general public about AI extinction risk. So this bias comparison shows me how the left was framing it up around environmental impacts, where the right was framing it around states' rights. That is really informative to me as I try to form my opinions and make decisions about how I'm going to communicate about AI extinction risk with the general public going forward. I also absolutely love this feature called Blind Spot. It shows you what stories are being covered super heavily by one side. These are stories in your algorithm you just might miss because you don't know they're out there. So, if you want to support the AI Risk Network, there is nothing more powerful you can do in terms of showing your support than subscribing to Ground News and using our custom code. There's a QR code right here. There's the URL right here. It's ground.news/AI risk. They will know everyone who's using that came from right here. It's incredibly important that we ring that bell a lot and get a lot of subscribers into Ground News. So please go sign up, do it. You'll be glad you did. Ground News and the AI Risk Network want to form a long-term relationship and partnership, but that depends on one thing: our viewers actually subscribing to Ground News. So I need you to go in to your phone, to your laptop, to wherever, ground.news/AI risk. Sign up. You'll be able to support the AI Risk Network tremendously and get the perspective on your news that you have been lacking. It is so important. Please do it. All right, now back to the show.
One of you said it earlier. I think it's close to the term I use. Like human replacement AI is what they're building. And I think that it doesn't matter what you do. It's coming for all the jobs, just in some random order. I don't think a lot of people predicted it was going to come for the creative jobs first, but that happened. That's a reality. Let's move into the main course here, if we can, just for a little while. So when you hear about AI extinction risk, what comes to mind? And I'll go Emma to you first. Do you hear about it on the college campus? Are people talking about AI human extinction risk, or is that just not even a thing?
Honestly, the conversation on campus does not usually go that far. I think young people are just starting to understand how AI is impacting their housing and their job opportunity. But I think we right now are at the starter course, the appetizer at college campuses. And I think my goal when I'm engaging with these people is to stop it there as well. If we can spread information on campus and organize to actually produce real change, that's the best impact we can have. And I think a lot of people are anxious about AI. So adding those conversations of, is this going to take us out, kind of just adds more panic rather than sensible thinking about how we can actually make change in this realm. So my focus has been making sure that we actually inform young people on how it's impacting them and then figure out what we can do before it gets to that point.
Sure. And have you yourself considered human extinction from AI? Is that a thought that crosses your brain?
It has been a thought that's crossed my mind a couple times. I think it's crossed most people's minds. But I do try to ground myself in the fact that we are doing our best to make change and just kind of reflect and look at the statistics of, we have this large group of people that want to be involved in making change. And we're really just in the beginning steps of that happening with AI emerging so recently, that I do kind of hang on to that hope rather than the fear that we are going to be able to make change when we have people working in all different realms, young and old, to kind of address this issue. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And, I share that perspective. I wouldn't be sitting here with you all today if I thought the ship had sailed and we didn't have a chance. I think we absolutely do. And I think we have a very limited period of time where we have to take action. I'll just give you my personal perspective on AI extinction risk is I think it's really simple. I think it's something that everyone can understand. The makers of AI are building systems that they openly admit have the near-term future potential to kill us all. The leading outside experts confirm this. These same companies tell us, and the outside experts confirm, they don't know how to control these systems and they don't even understand how they work, yet they spend all their time and money making them stronger, not safer. That to me is the situation we need to remedy the most. But so let me go to Sam. When you're having your conversations on the Hill, is extinction risk a part of it, or is everybody having appetizers?
Yeah, it's definitely more of an appetizers conversation. Honestly, up until like the last few weeks, frankly, the water had just gotten on the table and we hadn't even gotten our appetizers yet. It was really, really early. And the only conversations that were happening was, how do we invest in innovation? How do we beat China? Things like that. And a lot less about any sort of risks that we may encounter. I think that is starting to change with AI companions. And I think especially with young people, the way in is going to be to talk about those pressing harms. Our generation is really disappointed in what we've seen of the government during our lifetimes and its inability to serve on the pressing issues that are really affecting our lives. And AI is going to really accelerate a lot of those risks. So if we can start by explaining those problems, get people looped into these ideas that AI dependence does take away from our humanity and really everything that we care about, then it's a very logical jump to say we also need to be worried about these super powerful systems. And in general, I think the idea of AI being more powerful than a person, of us being dependent on AI, is a good framework to get people to start thinking about AI safety in these more general terms as well.
Sure. And Ava, I think something that like young people think, that I used to think when I was a young person, now I'm I guess a little older young person. Young people think there's adults in the room that have the answers, that have it all figured out, that like have a plan, that like it's all going to be okay because there's, mom and dad and the whoever is they've got this. Do you think young people have that sense with AI? And then on the other side of that, I'll share you how I feel about that.
I think that young people are incredibly disillusioned with the people that they once trusted to make change for them. And I think on tech issues, that disillusionment just goes way up because, and this is our whole theory of change, right? I think that there are a lot of older people in rooms who are trying really hard and who believe that they're doing the right thing and really want to make change and make lives better for young people. But the issue is they don't have an intuitive understanding of how these problems are impacting young people, and therefore they can't creatively problem solve in the same way to solve these issues, right? If you didn't grow up on social media, you might think that the worst thing about social media is that like there are like counts on there. But what you won't realize is that the algorithms which are feeding you this dangerous content are so much more harmful, And it's the same thing with AI. If you didn't grow up with AI, you might think that the worst thing that could happen is a kid using ChatGPT for their essay. But what you don't see is that your friends are turning to ChatGPT to tell them their deepest secrets and gain empathy from them, and they're not talking to you anymore. So yeah. I definitely think that there's good faith, but I don't think that we can solve this problem if we do not absolutely pack the room to the brim of young people.
Yes. Change starts with young people.
Yes. Absolutely.
Emma, how about in your experience? Do you, are there the chatbots with people of your age is wild to me. I would have thought that like the chatbot danger would be like, I don't know, some guy my age who's living in the basement and is just talking to a chatbot all day or something. But there's like, young college students out on the campus going to the party at night, having a good time, talking to a chatbot about their innermost stuff.
Yeah, I think it does sound crazy, but when you consider the fact that our generation has grown up with various forms of social media, these algorithms, like honestly, a common experience between young women that I have spoken to is this, you're getting on Instagram at 13 years old, and then you're seeing content that's being pushed to you about, a specific workout you need to do or a diet plan you need to go on. And the second you engage with one of those posts, your whole feed is flooded with it. So that kind of fosters this environment of comparing yourself to not only the people around you, but these unrealistic beauty standards you see online. And you can see how that's really harmful to the mental health of these young people that are growing up. So it's not entirely surprising that our generation is kind of facing this loneliness. And then when you're introducing this chatbot that can really validate all of their concerns, I can see why people have used it. And I think one of my biggest concerns with it is that when people are turning to these chatbots, we're kind of losing that ability to engage civically with each other. Like the way Ava's talking about young people being in this conversation, the companions play a large role in that, because if we're losing our ability to have this civil discourse and talk about our future, we're not getting young people into the conversation, we're pulling them further out of it. So my concern with the chatbots is that we're losing that ability. And I just think that could be harmful to our ability to actually make a change in the future about AI.
And let's talk for a moment about the idea of consent. None of us have consented to be the experiment lab to build superintelligence, the thing that they are gravely concerned can kill us all. We've also not consented to any of the other stuff, to the job loss, to the losing friends, to chatbots. Sam, I guess they're not required to ask our consent, but it sure seems wrong as hell that this is just being imposed on everyone. And apparently we have no say in it, or at least by their design, we're not supposed to have a say in it. Yeah,
for sure. And just following up real quick on Emma's point as well, I think this gets to your point too. I think it's not the kids that are, going to parties necessarily that are at the greatest risks of this. It's the kids who are struggling to find connection and to figure out how to interact with others, especially at your middle school and high school level, I think is where we're hearing of the greatest risk from our student organizers. And it's much easier than when you're lonely to turn to these chatbots as a crutch, but ultimately that will make you less able to build relationships with other people. So I think that's a part of it, is these tech companies are picking off people at the edges, starting where it's easiest for them to break in, and then slowly over time normalizing this product. That's really concerning. So even though an individual might say like, look, I really need this right now, at a community level, it's not something that we want as a part of our communities in general. And we want to better support people who are lonely. In many cases, because of technology that's manipulated us and has eroded our communities in the first place. So I think using that sort of framework is one good way to look at it. But that's definitely something I think about a lot. Like, it feels in many ways like we're living at one of the most consequential times in history, that for the first time we will have technology that is at or above the capacity of a person to take action, and how that's just going to have massive changes for society. In some ways, I think there will be positive things that come out of that. But there's going to be a lot of unrest and a lot of risk as well that comes with that. So it's exciting for what we can do, but it also feels like this incredible responsibility, being 22 years old and feeling like we have to solve this issue, or we might not see a future for humanity or a meaningful future is definitely a very scary thing.
So young people are a critical part of protest. How far away are we from students' march against AI at like scale? Like, one of the big issues with the AI safety movement is there's protests, but they're very small generally. And we need the young people to show up and show out, to, visibly demonstrate this. This is sort of a quiet protest that's going on, right? Like, the three of us are talking and stuff, but you don't see visibly the angst and anti-AI sentiment that is clearly there. How far are we from protest at scale?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a really, really great question. And something that we talk about a lot is the populist groundswell against AI will come. but there's no real way to control when that's going to come or what is going to be the thing that sets that off. And I think that's something that we're trying to build for and prepare for at the Young People's Alliance, is build out the infrastructure that when young people feel like they are being violated and they want to come join us, we will have the capacity, we will have the organizers, we will have the coaches like Emma who can welcome them into the movement and give them a sign and point them in the direction that they need to go in. You know, it's a lot of preparation work for a day that you're not sure if it'll ever actually come or when it will come, but I believe in it, and I believe that it's coming, and I believe that we're going to see a kind of political divide that we've never seen before in this country. It's not going to be Republican or Democrat. It's going to be people who want to push on AI without any guardrails and those who want guardrails. It's going to be those who want to maintain humanity and those who are okay accepting this. And I don't have any social media. I'm not on the internet at all. I just don't.
Good for you.
There's a lot of reasons we could go into it, but I am like, that's a whole different podcast. But I've spent a little bit of time through our Young People's Alliance Twitter, just observing, you know, what the online discourse is. And there are already people who are on the complete opposite side of this than we are. There are already people out there who are saying, like, I can't wait until I have 10 Mark Zuckerberg chatbot best friends. Like, I'm so excited for this future. And it's really interesting to me to just try to start conversation with those people and see, why are you feeling that way? And maybe walk them through uncovering some of the myths that they might be believing in that just aren't true. Because these AI models are programmed, they're incentivized to relate to us, to keep us engaged, and ultimately to be able to collect as much data as possible. It's like, this AI doesn't care about you. It's just valuable for it to ask follow-up questions about how you're feeling, because then you'll tell it how you're feeling and they'll be able to sell that data to a data broker who can target you with advertisements based on how you're feeling. Or they can train their model to be able to better soothe you based on how you're feeling. So I think that those conversations are just really, really important, and navigating that tension and knowing that it's coming and preparing for it when it does come. But the when question, I don't know if Sam or Emma has a better idea, but I have no idea. I'm hoping soon.
Yeah, Emma, I was going to say, like, if you put a flyer tonight all around East Carolina University that said AI risk community meeting tonight at X location, like, would people show up? What's your thought? How far are we?
I think some people would show up to a meeting, but I think kind of going back to what Ava said before, it's important to consider our generation's feelings toward government and the political parties right now. Like, we as a generation feel like we are paying these taxes and none of it's serving us. Like, we are not feeling like either party is really addressing our main concerns. So I think with that in mind, people on campus aren't as inclined to get involved, because right now politics is so polarized. It feels like you have to pick a side, and they don't want to pick a side because neither of them really works for them. So I've met a lot of people who don't want to engage politically at all. And, you know, then when I kind of explain that Young People's Alliance doesn't fall between party lines, this is, you know, addressing issues that impact all of us regardless of party choice, people are more inclined to get involved. So I think protests have traditionally been a form of political engagement, but I think with our generation, we may see more subtle political engagement, like conversations like these, like meetings, like joining a club on campus, where it doesn't feel like you're contributing to this divisive environment, but you're still making a change. But I think if you put out a sign to go protest, not that many people would be inclined to go and put themselves in that position.
Yeah. Sam, this is an issue that brings together Bernie and Bannon, MTG and AOC. Like, my highest hope is this remains a nonpartisan issue, that this is something that is humans versus aliens and can really sort of unite. This is a grand wish, but unite the globe to choose not to build this thing. You know, my biggest ask is a permanent ban on superintelligence. Like, let's just never build superintelligence. What do you think from your seat in DC and sort of the policy world? What is the potential for it to unite everybody, and what are the sort of lines that might make that not happen?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting that you picked out like some of the most extreme people on each side of the aisle. And I think that is indicative of where the biggest concerns are. People in the political extremes have been the first to pick up on like, not, kind of like Francis Fukuyama, we've reached the end of history with liberalism. In some ways, we've reached the end of liberalism. Like, it had an incredible run of securing rights for new groups of people, and not that those things aren't still valuable. But now we're also taking a step back and saying the answer to every question is not always going to be atomizing people more and more and making people more and more individual at the expense of communities. There is a point where we do have to say we're creating a massive tragedy of the commons problem here, where provisioning AI to the most lonely people, creating AI for the tech billionaires to enjoy the profits of while harming everybody else is not something we want for our society. And so I think your more community-oriented or interested folks are picking up on that first. And I think you do still have a corporate-friendly establishment that isn't as concerned about these issues and is friendly to those companies. I think in the next few years, we will start to see more and more folks fall into that group. And that's part of what we want to see, is that more people considering those arguments who aren't in the political extremes. That's a part of what we do, and making it a mainstream issue. But it is going to be a populist thing. I think there's an establishment that's friendly with these incredibly powerful companies that does want to see this. And like I said, a lot of this may be beneficial, but how do we do it in a safe way? There's a lot of common sense stuff that everybody should support there.
Yeah. Let's talk about the CEOs, the individuals who are driving all of this. What is the feeling among the young people? Go to Emma. What is the feeling among the young people towards these guys, Sam Altman and Zuckerberg and Elon, and the actual humans? Because I think in a movement it can be effective to have villains, right, and to sort of like villainize them. I also think it is a fair and accurate point to say that if you swap them all out today and put new people in those seats, the incentives are such that to stay in that seat, you would need to essentially do what they're doing. So what are your thoughts on these guys, the 3, 4, 5 individuals who have built $100 million bunkers that they can run away to if it all goes to hell? What are your thoughts on them?
I think the general consensus is definitely negative when it comes to big tech CEOs. And like you said, I don't think it's necessarily like an individual person's personality. It's more so the position they're in and how they're using that power. I think young people recognize that, they hold this mass amount of wealth and they are feeding off of us and our data using their manipulative algorithms that we are being harmed by. And, they're holding this mass amount of power and wealth that doesn't actually benefit young people in any way. Yet we're still the people consuming their products. So I think it's a kind of hard line where, I don't think many young people are a great fan of Mark Zuckerberg, but we're all still using Instagram and other platforms like that. And if you tell someone to get off of Instagram, they're going to say no. So I think it's hard, where we've kind of grown up with social media being part of our social dynamic. So to take away a mass part of that and a mass form of connecting with people, I think that's hard to, that's hard to fathom as well. I don't think we view tech CEOs positively. And I think we might if it was just more of like a regulation on their actual practices.
Yeah, to follow up there, I think as well, the two things that we're seeing is one, like Emma mentioned, Mark Zuckerberg specifically is very unpopular, and versus Anthropic just endorsed SB 53 in California for what it's worth, which is a landmark AI safety bill. And so I think there is, some flexibility there and allies that we can find on the corporate side as well. Ideally, I think the other thing to mention there is, like Emma was saying, there is, going back to the point about tragedy of commons, there are studies showing that a lot of young people would actually pay for social media to no longer exist. I think the number was $30 a month they would pay for social media to not exist. Yeah. And yet at the same time, when I'm feeling bored at a social event, I still might go on my phone because that's increasing my overall utility. But it's hurting everybody else who might want to talk to me or whatever. And because we individually each, same with writing an essay with AI or whatever, it can be individually beneficial, but overall, when it's adopted at scale in the ways that it's being adopted right now, it's going to be harmful ultimately.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to give you another little story. I'm going into weird little stories today. So I saw it on the internet somewhere, and I got a chess clock to like regulate my use of my phone. And the idea is you hit it, it's like the bop bop, and you hit it one way when you are using your phone. And then when you put your phone down, you hit it the other way. And that should give you like uninterrupted time to focus and do your work. Right. So it's like, it's like a barrier to that trigger to like pick it up. So in the first day of using, I've been using this for a couple of months now, and I can get to like 30, 40 minutes. But in the first like days of using it, I realized that I grab for my phone in like 3 to 4 minutes. Like if I'm not looking at my phone every 3 or 4 minutes, I have like a biological reflex to like pick up my phone. And this thing exposed this to me. And I was like, oh my God, like literally my brain has like a little timer going in there. And it's like, need that dopamine, get it out. So I just think that it's so invasive into our brains in ways that we can't really figure out. So let's talk about what makes you hopeful for the future. I always like to sort of wrap it up on a positive note, and what makes you think that we're going to get to a better future. And before I ask you that, I just want to give one point to you, and that is when we talk about extinction risk and when we talk about the appetizers versus the dinner, an important point is that the remedies for the lower risks are different than the remedy for extinction risk. So like we could solve deepfakes and companions and jobs and not solve extinction risk and still be in a really, really bad place. So I think it is, as we sort of think about it and process it, it's important to consider what the remedies are to the different problems. But let me start with you, Emma, on our campus there. What gives you hope about the future we are all walking into with AI?
Yeah, I think my journey with YPA honestly has given me the most hope. About 2 years ago, I was the only person on ECU's campus doing any sort of organizing work. I was out there by myself trying to recruit people to help me. And I was getting engagement, but that engagement has really like exploded the last year to the point where we've expanded to campuses across the nation. ECU, the other day we had 85 people sign up for our club at the club fair. That was just 2 hours long. So I see the interest in young people, and it just feels like I just need to help connect the issues to their lives. And I think we're doing that. And I have people who are eager to get involved from all types of majors, all types of backgrounds, all types of people, really, which is our complete goal. So I think seeing that people on this campus are receptive to this message and want to get involved but don't know how, being able to offer them an avenue to get involved and actually make change is really rewarding. And it gives me hope that will just continue to expand and grow until we're at a level where we can really induce serious change at a federal or state level.
That's really encouraging, because I heard what you said earlier about the young people being sort of down on the political system, just the sort of the way the government has been working on their behalf. But to hear that there's sort of like an increase in interest in getting active is really great.
Yeah, in my recruitment, if I mention that we are nonpartisan, like the second I take away any sort of party element, people are much more engaged. But the second you bring up politics, their automatic opinion or feeling is negative. They don't want to get involved. And then when you kind of explain like these issues impact all of us, regardless of where you fall politically, where you're from, what you're studying, then people are more receptive to like, okay, I need to get involved in this. And, I do see that across all types of people, which is really great.
Love it. Love it. Ava, how about you? What gives you hope for the future here?
Well, people on our campuses like Emma, without a doubt, give me hope. This call, honestly, I don't know if you could just see me smiling there, gave me a bit of hope. I think the fact that there isn't really another option gives me hope. I think that a lot of people who do this work, and maybe you can relate, have manufactured this form of delusional optimism that they buy into every single morning. And it's like, if I wasn't feeling hope, I wouldn't be working as hard. I wouldn't be doing my job. So other things that give me hope are, there's a lot of small things. Like we had a very good decision come from a Ninth Circuit court on preventing social media companies from unleashing addictive feeds on minors. And it's just those tiny, tiny wins like that. When the court interprets something very well, or when a state legislator passes a law, like a bill just passed in California, 1064, and it's going to Newsom's desk about AI companions and preventing them from being able to use two anthropomorphic-like capabilities when they're talking to minors that foster emotional dependence. Small wins like that keep me hope, and just talking to children, because, well, that's a double-sided coin, because sometimes that makes me not hopeful, but it's just seeing that there's so much that they have yet to be exposed to, and that for children young enough, there is a world in which we solve this problem before they're ever exposed to it. That is something that keeps me going every single day.
Wow. That's what a cool idea, that like a kid who's 1 year old right now, maybe there's a world where by the time they're 10, we've solved some of these things for them. That is truly hopeful. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I think echoing Emma and Ava's comments, it's really seeing the young people feel the same way as us and want to do something about it. It doesn't feel like we're coming down and saying, oh, you kids don't get it. There are these big problems. Young people get this and are some of the most powerful advocates on this issue that we can mobilize. So as we educate more people, as more people become mobilized around this issue, I think we're going to be just fine as long as political power goes.
Excellent. Ava?
I also would want to add just one more thing, that nihilism and being existential at this point is just baked into the lives of young people, but you can't stop there. And you have to, there's no other option other than doing something about it. And seeing that there are a lot of young people who have spent the past couple of years feeling very, very existential and disillusioned, who are kind of waking up to the fact and being like, okay, I noticed that I feel so much existential dread every day, and I'm going to get over that and go and do some work. That mindset is also very inspiring to me. And I want to put that out there too for any young person who might be listening. If you feel that existential dread, notice it. I'm sorry you're feeling that. I'm feeling it too. Come on and help us fix it, because it's only going to get worse if you're not doing any action. It's only going to build up deeper if you're not doing any action. And finding purpose through work like this is actually a very great way to release some of that dread that you're feeling and some of that anxiety that you're feeling every day.
Absolutely. I find so much comfort in acting proactively and taking time every day to work, to solve, to create a better world. It makes it seem possible, right? When you're just looking at the problem at arm's length and not touching it, it seems intractable. But when you get it close and you start to pick it apart, it's like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could actually change this. And then before you know it, you've changed 10 things and the thing really starts to change. Such a pleasure talking with you all today. And I would just leave you with this one parting message is all of this stuff is so important. But don't put extinction risk at the back of the line. Most of the experts out there think we have about 2 years to make a meaningful difference, to get the laws changed we need to do to make sure that is not our future. And so I wish we had time to do what is sort of the typical approach to policy. It's we do the low-hanging fruit first, and then we do the harder stuff, and then we do the harder stuff. It's no, the hardest thing is actually upon us right now in this moment, and so it's incumbent on us to deal with it. And there's two ways to think about it, right? One is why us? This is terrible. How could this happen to us? The other is what an opportunity. We the people alive right now are in position to either save humanity or not. And, the decisions made by the people alive right now, our age, are going to be the things that either make a future or don't. And so, in some ways that's terrifying, and in other ways it's really empowering and really exciting. And so I just urge you to keep doing what you all are doing, keep active, keep bringing more young people to be active. And if you can, shepherd them into the thought of extinction risk, because we all need to get there now so we can take action so that we don't get there in reality. So thank you all so much for doing what you do. Thank you all for coming on.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
So what do you all think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about AI risk and young people, and how we can get them involved in the fight against the AI companies building machines that they cannot control and that they openly admit have the potential to kill us all? Okay, speaking of young people, let's go out on the streets with our AI Risk Network field correspondent, Chaz Chapel. We sent Chaz out to ask young people about the most important book of 2025. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. Here is Chaz out in the field.
super intelligent AI could kill us all. That's why I'm out here interviewing college students for their thoughts on the new book, If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. Have you heard of this idea that super intelligent AI poses an extinction level threat to humans? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
So I actually have heard of that, and I agree and I disagree. So in healthcare especially, I do agree that it's good in certain scenarios, but on just daily life, I do feel like it has already taken a lot of jobs, just because of how quickly it's growing. So yeah, that I think it can, but I don't think it would come so soon.
I don't know. From what I know of AI, I don't think it can really operate. Like, I don't think it can do everything that humans can do. So it doesn't really put us at that much of a risk. But it does put a risk on jobs and opportunities that humans can have, because AI can just do that easier.
I have heard a little bit about it. In my global change class that I'm taking right now, I hear that it's taking clean water from our sources of water and taking that and making there less water. I feel like it's really bad and we need to stop using AI. I heard about the meta AI that's being put in people's heads. AI is bad, guys. Kids, stay in school.
To learn more about this existential threat, please be sure to subscribe to the AI Risk Network.
Thank you, Chaz, so much. Let me know in the comments where we should send Chaz next, who we should be talking to, what he should be asking. Okay, friends, always remember, AI risk is not someone else's problem to solve. It is yours and it is mine. And there is no way we are going to allow a few thousand people to wipe the rest of the 8 billion of us off the face of this planet. No way. For Humanity, I'm John Sherman. I'll see you really soon.